Welcome back everybody to the biggest and best motorcycle show in the world. It's EICMA in Milan and we're back with our coverage from the Moto Guzzi stand. It's a little bit weirdly quiet here because this is one of the bikes I was actually really excited to see. I am a bit of a retro fan, but I think this looks like one of the most exciting new retros for 2025 because not only have they updated the whole 7 lineup here at Moto Guzzi, but also reintroduced this, which is the sport version. So here we go with absolutely everything that you need to know. Now, no prizes for guessing just from looking at the engine which bike this is. The transverse or longitudinally mounted V-twin is obviously a signature feature, and it's the same 853cc capacity, I believe. Air-cooled, lots of charm to it, but they have found a way to get a little bit more performance for 2025. So it's gone 4% up in peak power, so from 65 horsepower to 67.3. Probably not reason enough alone to upgrade to this new model, but every little helps, certainly at that sort of power level. But Moto Guzzi say more importantly, peak torque is up, so it's gone from 73 Newton meters to 79. And to be fair, a twin in a retro like this, you know, torque is what it's really all about, so I would agree with that. They also say that over 90% of that peak torque is available from like 3,500 RPM, and the peak even occurs at 4,400, so it really is a very usable engine on the road and should suit this style of bike very nicely indeed. And it makes it competitive with stuff like the Speed Twin 900 from Triumph, which is also around the 65 horsepower mark, 80 Newton meters of peak torque. Now look, another change I should point out though for 2025 is the fact that they've done away with the traditional cable throttle, and now all of the bikes in the V7 lineup get a ride-by-wire throttle. That opens up some more modern features, and one of them that might be quite appealing is the fact that it now gets riding modes. So the standard bikes get rain and road, I believe, where rain is going to give you more traction control intervention and a little bit less response from the throttle in order to help you to fine-tune your throttle application. Road mode, well, that's going to be your all-rounder. And then specific to this sport model, you also get a third sport riding mode, so more throttle response and also a little bit less intervention from the TC, so you can get the power down. Now, another feature that I think is going to be quite popular on this bike that does come as a result of that move away from a cable throttle and over to a ride-by-wire throttle is the fact that you now get cruise control fitted as standard. I think all three bikes, so the standard V7 Stone, the V7 Special, which has got a bit more chrome, and then this top dog, the sport model, all get it. And the only thing I'm slightly confused by is the fact that they said in the press release it'd be on the left-hand switchgear. Now, I've had a really good look around this switchgear. There's flash, there's your dip and main beam, you've got a mode button, indicators and a horn, but I don't see a dedicated cruise control button. So maybe it's something that will come on the production version. This could just be a knocked-together prototype. Or maybe the mode button is repurposed for cruise control. But either way, it's not one of those systems where you can nudge it up and down by, you know, 1 mile per hour at a time and hit resume and stuff like that. You know, it could just be like a simple single button. But I think for taking a little bit of the sting out of some of that motorway riding, if that's the sort of thing you want to do with it, then it's a welcome feature for sure. One feature that is specific, though, to the V7 Sport is the addition of an inertial measurement unit. So that measures lean angles and feeds them into the rider aids on the bike. And so that means that this is the only model in the lineup that gets cornering sensitive, traction control and ABS. So what that means is that those rider aids will intervene more appropriately when the bike's leaned over. And that's going to mean that it's going to be a little bit safer maybe when you're riding quicker. So if you're the sort of person who likes to ride a bike like this hard still, despite the fact that it's a relatively chilled out retro, then that might be another reason to go for this one. Perhaps interestingly though, they've still stuck with a fairly simple dash in the cockpit. So they've added a lot of tech, riding modes, cruise control, an inertial measurement unit. So maybe you'd expect they put like a TFT dash here, but it's still the LCD dash that you get on the other bikes. Now, it is nicely designed. You've got the sort of little wings out the side, and it fits the overall aesthetic of the bike, but in terms of functionality, it's certainly not up there with the latest and greatest. Still, if you want to have features like navigation and media and stuff like that to your bike, and you've got a simple dash like this, then the solution is obvious. It's to go with something like a quad lock, and that's the foam mount that we thoroughly recommend and thank massively for supporting the channel and making our EICMA coverage possible. Back home, we use quad lock products on pretty much all the bikes we review, so we use their handlebar mount pro, their vibration dampener to keep the phone's camera safe from harmful vibes, and also the wireless charging head, which is brilliant for keeping it topped up on those long rides without having to to plug it in. Then you've got a great range of other products for other activities like running and cycling, and even some good camera stuff like this tripod cum selfie stick, which is really versatile, and we've been using it a lot for capturing our social content for Instagram and stuff like that. So a massive thanks to Quadlock for supporting us through this trip. A massive thanks to Quadlock for supporting us through this trip. What was I going to say then? And yes, do check out the link down in the description below to find out more about their brilliant products. Now onto the chassis, and there's no huge departure here. It's still the same tubular steel cradle frame that you get on the previous generations and other iterations of this bike. And you've still got some of the signature features like the shaft drive, which is great, you know, nice and convenient, no chain maintenance to take care of. And also that whopping big 21-litre fuel tank, which gives you bags of range and is probably far beyond most other bikes in this part of the retro market. One of the other features, though, that distinguishes this sport model from the standard bikes is the suspension. So it's still got the twin shocks at the rear, but whereas the other bikes get a 40mm right way up fork, that's really quite simple. This one, I believe, is a 41mm upside down fork, and of course that's going to make it a little more rigid because the thicker parts at the top, and also there's less unsprung weight, so it can more easily do its job, which should give you a better ride quality. Then on top of that, the other fork is non-adjustable, and although this one doesn't allow you to adjust damping, you can adjust preload, which means you can get the bike nicely set up for your particular dimensions and weight. So it should be a slightly better handling bike. Then with the wheels, well, on this sport version, they're still the same dimensions. So I think it's an 18 at the front, 17 at the rear, but these are a slightly different design and quite a bit lighter. In fact, they said they're 1.8 kilograms per set lighter than the standard V7 Stone. And that's really impressive because we were just looking at the Panigale V2, the new Panigale V2 on the Ducati stand earlier, and they were claiming on their wheels that they'd saved, versus the previous generation of the Panigale V2, an impressive 1 kilogram of weight. So this is really quite significant, and also I should say it's going to have a more dramatic effect on the handling of the bike, being rotating and unsprung mass, than if you remove that 1.8 kilograms from the main body of the bike. So I'm expecting this to feel that a little bit more agile and flickable and quicker to change direction than the standard bikes. Then another win for the Sport is the fact that it gets an upgraded braking setup. I don't remember the brakes being particularly bad on the V7 Stone when I reviewed it a couple of years back, but it does just get the single disc, and I think they're axially mounted calipers, whereas this one gets twin Brembos, 4-piston, radially mounted, twin discs as well, and they also say they've upgraded the master cylinder. It's nothing particularly fancy, but they do say it's a little bit better than what you get on the standard bike. Now naturally, if you're going to get the Sport version, you're probably going to be hooning it a little bit more, and so better braking is always going to be a good thing, and it's not a particularly lightweight bike either, so twin discs are certainly welcome in my book. Now they also say there's a little bit of a difference in the styling. I will say the twin disc and the upside down fork definitely help in terms of making it look a bit more sporty, but also some of the finishing parts. In fact, I'll read you from the press release here what they say is different. An aluminium headlight bracket, some aluminium side panel inserts, some extra detail in the top yoke, some extra stitching on the saddle, and then they also specifically call out these brilliant bar end mirrors, which look like they do need tightening up a little bit. Still just an Allen key job, but yeah. On top of that, you've got two paint jobs which aren't available on the standard bike. This is the grey one, but also I was wishing they had this very popping lime green here, which was a little bit more vibrant and exciting. That's probably the one I'd go for, so we'll have a look around the stand after and see if we can find some footage of it. Otherwise, I'll stick up some pictures from their press website, but I'd love to know which of the two you'd pick down in the comments below. Actually, there it is. The green one up behind me. So it is here in some way. Now, as for the price, I think that's one of the impressive things about the V7 Stone is the fact that it's just over £8,000, and it used to be, you know, something that I would say is on a par with something like a Speed Twin 900, where that bike's crept up over the years, but they've managed to keep that fairly affordable. And the fact that they're still built in Italy, in Mandello, on the banks of Lake Como, I think is a brilliant thing, and it will be worth something to some people. So that's another thing to think about when you're looking at the pricing. There isn't one confirmed yet for the Sport model, but given that that's about, you know, 8,300, I think, for the previous generation, that might have gone up a couple £100. So hopefully they can keep this one 9.5 or under 10 grand, and then that'll make it look really quite appealing. I think, you know, for anyone who's liked the V7 Stone before but just wants that bit more performance, this is going to be definitely a bike to demo in 2025. So look, scores on the board for this one. We've gone 3 out of 5 for performance. It's not a particularly fast bike. That's not really its intention, but you have to say, with twin discs, an upside down fork, preload adjustability on the fork, and a little bit of extra power, but also substantially more torque, it looks like it should be a good fun ride and be able to mix it with some of the other retros like this. Features and tech is a funny one. I've gone 3 stars again because they've added the IMU, they've added cruise control, they've added riding modes, but the dash is still really quite simple and maybe lets it down a little bit in that regard. Then again, some people will probably prefer that sort of dash to something that's overcomplicated, and so that's why I've gone on the middle ground. 5 out of 5 for styling. This is one of my favourite looking retro bikes. I really like the fact that they've made it distinctive and stuck with some of their, you know, signature styling features. And so for me, it's a fantastic looker and absolutely a bike I'd love to open the garage to, especially that green one. And then for price, I've gone 3 out of 5 because we don't know. It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. Not as cheap as a Stone, but certainly worth probably paying the extra if you want something a bit quicker. That gives it, I'm looking here at 14. Let me go through that again. 3, 5, 3, 14. So let me know what you think of it down in the comments below and whether you agree with what I've gone with there. I'll also put our playlist on the screen now, which has got all of our videos so far this week, and we'll be adding a few more over the next couple of days, so definitely check it out. Hit subscribe as well if you want to see those videos as soon as they go live. A massive thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next video.